What's up, YouTube? Filthy Casual is back. I take two of this video because I accidentally stopped my recording mid-sentence, but that means you guys are going to get a much better video because I now have my thoughts in order. So we're going to start off by talking about a couple of things. We're going to talk about the Knicks being on a 7-game win streak. Holla holla. And we're going to talk about Nikola Jokic. Those are going to be those two things. We're going to start off with the Knicks because that's the positive one. The Knicks are awesome. The Knicks have been playing fantastic. Julius Randle has been killing it since the new year from the three-point line, which I understand is kind of wild considering everybody just saw him brick a ton of shots in the three-point contest. But Julius Randle is an underrated three-point shooter, and everybody was complaining about him being in the three-point contest, myself included, because there were much better options. Even in New York, Yuta Watanabe, right? Like, or you know, but there were other all-stars that were better. But he is an underrated three-point shooter, and his creation has been fantastic. And Jalen Brunson, I talked about him before. He's been on a complete tear in the new year. Since the new year, he's been one of the 2 or 3 best guards in the league. The only person I would say has been playing better is Dame Time, who had one of the best games I've ever seen and has been, I don't know. I don't know the exact number. I think it's like 37 points, but for a while, like he's averaging like mid 40s. Like it's one of the greatest scoring stretches. I saw a stat where it was talking about points scored in a. I think it was since in a 15 game span, and it was like the 4th most since 2000. It was behind Harden in his MVP season. AI in his MVP season, 06 Kobe, and then it was Damian Lillard, and then it was Steph Curry's 2021 season, which I know everybody seems to have forgotten about, but Steph Curry got absolutely snubbed out of a first-team All-NBA that season because he was amazing. He went into a shooting slump, but again, whatever. Regardless, oh no, that was 2022. 2021, he was first team All NBA. Should have been an MVP that year. Got robbed of that shit. Because I'm gonna move it on to the next question, which is Nikola Jokic. Jokic. Well, the argument to give Jokic the MVP in his first MVP season was that he played more games than Joel Embiid, and his team was a higher seed than Steph Curry. Right? So we turn around and we think about it, and we go, okay, so he's a 2 seed. He's played more games than Embiid, who is a 1 seed. Give it to him. All right, sure. He's playing amazing. Got it. Understood. Should have won that MVP. Cool. Second season, he's a 6 seed. Oh, he's leading the league in PER. Cool. He's got the highest PER of all time. Very cool. And he's doing it without a fantastic team around him. And they made the playoffs. Brilliant. Why did we not give it to Embiid? There was like almost like this universal acceptance towards the end of the year that it was a back-to-back MVP season for Jokic. And I think I was one of the only people saying, well, it's not like Jokic doesn't deserve it given his play, but the MVP has always been an award that is heavily dictated about your team performance. The player who's played the best season doesn't necessarily win the MVP. It's about storyline. It's about team performance. It's about conference performance. It's about a lot of things that are bigger than just the basketball you are playing. And Jokic kind of got the goalposts moved for him. Anthony Davis, years ago, when on the Pelicans, set a new PER record. He led the league in PER. I think it was the 3rd best PER of all time, right? It was like behind Michael Jordan. That was like the only person who had better. It was like Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain and then Anthony Davis. And AD's team had an injured Boogie Cousins and not the greatest season Drew Holiday's ever played. He was great, but that wasn't his best year. And he did not win MVP, which is fair because they were like a 7 seed. I don't like it baffles my mind that happened last year. It really does. And it's more than Jokic's play. So now we're in year 3. Jokic has not made it out of the second round since the bubble. Not made it out of the first round, I think. And I think that begs the question. Given his style of play, and I don't mean his offensive style of play, I mean his defensive style of play, is it possible to build a championship team around Jokic? I believe you can. I believe you can. I believe that he needs a very specific kind of player. He needs an Evan Mobley or a Brook Lopez kind of player, a player that can be the all-time help defender who can also stretch the floor a little bit. Because Jokic's offensive style of play is very similar to Draymond Green's, where he takes the ball, and he's obviously a much better scoring threat than Draymond Green ever has been. But he takes the ball at the elbow, and he forces you to either double him, not necessarily at the elbow, but, it could be on the wing, but close-ish to the basket. Not necessarily within 10 feet, but close-ish. And he forces you to either double him or he's going to score, or he's going to get a pass and a wide-open layup. It's kind of similar to Steph Curry's gravity. It's slightly different because he's a center, and that's part of what makes him so talented and so unique and so good at the game, because he moves people away from the basket, and then his team gets layups and wide-open threes, because that's how the game of basketball has functioned since 2015, pretty much. You want an open layup or an open corner three. Those are the two most efficient shots in basketball, outside of getting fouled on a three-point play. But so that's what that is what he produces on offense, which makes him so good. But he bleeds value on defense. To be a defensive center, and we've seen this for so many players. We've seen this is why Boogie Cousins couldn't stay in the league after he got injured. We saw this is why James Wiseman can't. Well, James Wiseman has other problems, but we've seen offensive centers. Brook Lopez couldn't maintain that offensive output and be on a contending team because Christian Wood on the Mavericks. He's got a great offensive player. He can't play defense. And so he's coming off the bench for Dwight Powell, who's half the player he is on offense. Half is a generous statement. But what he does do is he plays defense. And that's what you need when you're building a contender, from a center especially. And when you're a center, you need to be able to do one of two things on defense. You need to either be able to sit in the paint and drop coverage and be a help defender. Think Jaren Jackson Jr. Think Bam Adebayo. Think those guys. Think Giannis Antetokounmpo. Think those dudes. Or you need to be able to move your feet and guard the perimeter. Think Bam. Sorry, I didn't mean Bam in the other one. Think Bam. Think Ben Simmons, who's really just a center, right? Think Nick, and the defensive players that are successful at center can do one of those two things. Now, the second one, like Draymond Green, who can guard 1 through 5, or Bam Adebayo, who can guard 1 through 5, or Ben Simmons, who can guard, well, I don't know about anymore, but he used to be able to guard 1 through 5. Those guys are very special. And not everybody can do that. So if you're playing in drop coverage, which is how Jokic and how the Nuggets operate, you need to be able to be a strong help defender, which Jokic is not. So what happens is that they bring him out in a pick and roll, and he gets lost because the team strategy, even with hedging, which they do, ends up putting him in drop coverage where he has no foot speed and no quick twitch to be able to either contest the three when they go under, which they do, or when they drive, to be able to move your feet laterally to either stay in front of the guy or contest the shot at the rim. Jokic is he's like a fucking traffic cone. And in the playoffs, look at the players that he's gonna have to play in the West. Ja Morant, Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, Damian Lillard, James Harden, like so many great Desmond Bain, like so many amazing players from these teams. And Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, Donovan Mitchell's in the East, but like there are so many players in the West that are going to be hard for me. De'Aaron Fox, the fastest dude in the NBA. Devin Booker. Like there are so many guards that Jokic is doing nothing to help on the back end. And I just don't have faith that the Nuggets are going to be able to make up that value in a 7-game series. I just don't. They're going to need to be so incredibly efficient on offense. And yes, they have that potential. But when I'm looking at the teams that they're going to play, if the Kings play faster than the Nuggets, are the Nuggets going to be able to beat the Kings? We saw them play the King Clippers game, and we saw the Clippers couldn't. Granted, they did end up sitting Paul George, so ignore that. Ignore the Kings even. Say they've got the Kings. Joker and Sabonis are similar types of players, bleed value on defense. So, sure. Jokic and the Nuggets got the Kings. That's the 3 seed they can beat. But if they're playing KD and Booker and the Suns, are they going to be able to beat them? Are they going to be able to beat Steph Curry and the Warriors? We saw how that went last year. Sure, this team is worse than last year. I'm not going to dispute that, but are they going to be able to do that? If they're against Kawhi and Paul George is putting him in 20 pick and rolls, and Terrence Mann is putting him in a bunch of pick and rolls, I just don't see how the Nuggets have any kind of like defensive stopper that's going to be able to help them. Like, yeah, KCP's good. Like, he's shown that he can be a championship caliber, like, off guard, but he's not doing that at the level of defense. Like, he gives you value in other areas in addition to his defense. Defense isn't his main thing. And I'm just looking at their roster, and it's like their best defenders, like, what? Aaron Gordon? Like they don't have a backup center that like they've got Thomas Bryant. Sure, he can give you some defensive minutes, but in the playoffs you don't really want to be playing that guy a ton. And they don't really have multiple ways of switching up their offense to keep you guessing. Once in the 7-game series, is Jokic's play style really going to be the thing that elevates this team? Because in their most successful playoffs, it wasn't Jokic that was the main elevator. It was Jamal Murray dropping 50 against Donovan Mitchell, and it was his consistently good play. It was Michael Porter Jr. hitting some shots. Like, there was... I'm going to leave it with this because I could go on Jokic for forever. If he wins this 3rd MVP, I am scared that the Nuggets are not going to make it out of the 2nd round. And if that happens, Jokic is going to become so supremely slandered, which a little bit is what a lot of this video is. And I just don't feel like to be a 3-time MVP, to be pretty much universally the 5th or 6th best player in the league, I think that's a tough sell, at least for me. Either way, thank you for watching the video.